Hi, everyone, and welcome to the lineup. Today is December the 28th, 2023. I'm Barry Stagner, and very glad to have you joining with us this evening. And as usual, a couple of things before we jump in. One, I mentioned the Israel trip that we'll be taking in May 13 to 21. If you'd like to join us, still a couple of spots available. And we're trying to keep the trip size down, so we're just limiting it to a small number of people, maybe a busload, and just so we don't get caught up in that herding cats thing and just so many things to take care of when you've got a big crowd. So it'll be a nice, intimate trip. Myself and Amir will be teaching. If you'd like to join us, you can go to calvarycoc.org and click on what's happening, and that'll take you to a link where you can sign up for the trip. That's calvarycoc.org, formerly Calvary cctustin.org, but the new link to the website is up and running. And also one more thing, we have a few more days before the release of The Time of the Signs. Very excited about this, and if you haven't pre-ordered a copy, you can still do so and pre-order, as we've talked about. Super important, and so if you'd like to grab it on Amazon or any other online bookseller, that'd be great. If you'd like to have a copy in hand on January 17th, the day after release. Well, let's get on with the show, as they say. And let me get situated here. Here we go. Of course, we're going to talk about Israel and some other things going on. And as always, it's just insane to see the things going on in our world today. And oh, by the way, sorry, one more thing. Proximity 2024, January 27th at Calvary Central Orange County. And you can sign up for that as well. Lunch is provided. We've got a wonderful wedding venue across the street from the church that is going to provide a meal and seating for having lunch. So lunch will be provided with the registration cost. I think it's $25, and it covers lunch and the whole day. And Amir is going to be teaching via video from Israel, and Pastor Mike Olay will be with us in person, and I'll be teaching. And excuse me, that'll round out the day. So hopefully you guys are able to make it if you're local, and if you need time to travel. We're just a little under a month away, and excited about it, especially in light of all the stuff that we have going on in the world. Well, let's get into it. The Jewish News Syndicate says the IDF Chief of Staff approved plans in North and warns of readiness to attack. Meanwhile, the Israeli military is gaining valuable intelligence from security cameras in Hamas tunnels as a part of its pursuit of the terror group's leadership, its spokesman says. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Houthis Halevi approved operational plans on Wednesday at the military's Northern Command, which has responsibility for the Lebanese border, and warned of the need to be ready to attack if required. Halevi made the comments after holding a situation assessment together with the commander of the Northern Command and other commanders, the IDF released in a report. Our first task is to return residents securely, and it will take time. We approved today a variety of plans for continuation, and we need to be ready to attack if required. The IDF and within it, the Northern Command, are in very high readiness. In the U.S. system, they'd be at DEFCON 1, the highest level of alert readiness, military readiness. So far, the campaign is managed correctly and meticulously, and it should continue as such. We will not return the residents without security and a sense of security, said Halevi. Excuse me. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari stated on Wednesday that in the north, the military has been responding to Hezbollah, to thwarting attacks and destroying Hezbollah's infrastructure along the Israeli-Lebanese border. He added that more than 150 terrorists have been killed by the IDF in Lebanon since October 8th, when the Iranian-backed terror army began firing on Israel, and that 129 of the 150 were Hezbollah members. Got a little dust in my throat or something, pardon me. Now, In Gaza, the IDF fighting against Hamas in a number of focal points includes central Gaza's al-Barej area, where the IDF is in its third day of attack and where it has killed many terrorists, Hagari said. Second focal point is Khan Yunis, where the IDF has inserted a new brigade and is intensifying operations against the southern Gaza Hamas stronghold. So, Israel in battle from the north and the south, and other directions too. The north east also we see rockets and such, and even a drone crash in the Golan Heights that the Iraqis took responsibility for launching into Israel. And Axios reports that U.S. forces destroy swarm of drones and missiles launched by the Houthis. U.S. forces in the Middle East destroyed a swarm of drones and missiles fired by the Iran-backed Houthi rebels during an hours-long attack in the Red Sea on Tuesday, according to U.S. Central Command. Why this matters is the surge of Houthi attacks in recent weeks has disrupted international shipping and prompted the U.S. to step up its military presence in the region. The confrontation came just a little over a week after the U.S. expanded a multinational maritime security force to protect ships in the Red Sea from attacks launched by the Houthis. The Houthis say that they are conducting the attacks in solidarity with the Palestinians prior to Tuesday's attempted missile and drone strikes, and the group had vowed to continue its attacks despite the expanded U.S.-led security force. And shipping giants, including Maersk, had rerouted their ships away from the critical shipping channels in the Red Sea due to the Houthi attacks. And Maersk announced Sunday it would be resuming those shipments. And Tuesday's Houthi attack came a day after other Iranian-backed groups launched a drone attack against the Erbil Air Base in Iraq, injuring 3 American service members. And in response to that and others, the U.S. destroyed 3 facilities used by Iranian proxies through a round of airstrikes on Tuesday, according to CENTCOM. Well, of course, we have, wars and rumors of wars as far as it pertains to Bible prophecy. But, it's interesting how much of this is going on the northern border of Israel, how much, the Golan obviously being on Israel's northern border, and watching all this unfold. It just reminds us that we are seeing, I believe, movement towards the last of the last days. And the Lord, therefore, would be coming for us soon because so many things are lining up that are unprecedented. And we find that word all over Scripture, or all over the news, I should say, that things will be at levels never before seen. And now here you've got the Iranians pulling puppet strings on so many different military groups who would like to see the destruction of Israel. And remember that is the common theme. And this is what the world is headed to, according to Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3, the common view that Israel is a burden to the world. And, it's just really heartbreaking to see. And I can't imagine, and Amir has expressed just the disbelief and the pain that they are going through in Israel, and he, especially as a Jewish Christian, the things that are happening within the church and the things that people are expressing regarding the modern nation of Israel. And listen, if and I don't know if I want to say I want to be careful about this, because I really don't. If you are part of a church that's teaching that modern Israel is not biblical Israel, you need to find a new church because somebody that's at the helm of that church doesn't know how to interpret Scripture. And I say that without hesitation and without apology, because the fact is, if modern Israel is not biblical Israel, then why is everything that the Bible said about Israel in the last days happening to this country? Why is the whole world turning against Israel like the Bible said they would? Why are we watching all these things unfold that the Bible has talked about? And these nations from initially named in the table of nations in Genesis chapter 10. Why are they in coalition together? Why do they have military hardware on the northern border of Israel, just like Ezekiel 38 and 39 said? Why are they in the very place and from the very direction that God said he'll put a hook in their jaw and draw them down out of their place in the far north? Why is Turkey and Russia and Iran and Sudan and Libya, why do they all share this common need to see Israel's demise. And, a lot of it's economic, as the invasion of Israel is prophesied to be, even as Saudi Arabia and the Arab Gulf states are going to protest the invasion by asking the question, what's this all about? Have you come to take booty and plunder? Indicating that the invasion will be economically motivated as well as ideologically motivated, because 4 of the 5 nations are Islamic, and extremist Islamic at that. So why in the world is all this happening if modern Israel is not biblical Israel, or if in the minds of some the church has replaced Israel? Well, the big problem with that is if the church has replaced Israel and all the promises of God, now apply to the church. Well, the big deal about that ridiculous conclusion is that means that all the negative things that are promised to Israel are now going to happen to the church, including the 70th week of Daniel. Now, if the 70th week of Daniel and the Great Tribulation are the same thing, and they are, and the 70th week of Daniel is one of the 70 7-year periods that was carved out for Daniel's people, the Jews, in the holy city of Jerusalem, then how in the world does the church fit into the Jews in Jerusalem if the other 69 weeks were specific to the nation of Israel or the Jewish people, as well as the city of Jerusalem? Why in the world would the Bible have such a grievous error to say that the 70th week applies to the same group and the same location as the previous 69, when it actually applies to the church, which is a global entity and is not localized to the city of Jerusalem? And the city of Jerusalem is not our capital. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little fired up here, but it just aggravates me to see just so many nonsensical things said that are not just nonsensical, they're unbiblical. And, one, if God casts off people forever after making unconditional and everlasting promises to them, we're all in trouble. But thank the Lord, he does not. He has not cast off Israel. They are still his chosen people. The land of Israel still belongs to the Jews, including Judea and Samaria, that is referred to as the West Bank. And it's not the Jews that are settlers. The Jews are living in the national homeland God gave to them and promised to bring them back by his own power and for his glory and namesake, according to Ezekiel 36:20-22. So, understanding we're watching so many things take place that no other generation has seen. And that means we are living in unprecedented and exciting times. I hope you're looking up for the glorious appearing of our great God and Savior, Jesus Christ. And those of you who are familiar with Calvary Central OC know that we have a word for every year. And we do have a word for 2024, and it's an exciting word. And I hope we never even get to say it. I hope the Lord comes before New Year's Eve, when we normally announce our word. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And, I think about a statement Dr. Thomas Ice made in a conference we were both speaking at some years ago. He said, "What problem do you have that the rapture wouldn't solve?" And we will be living in a pleasure-filled and joy-filled and problem-free existence in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. So keep that in mind as we move forward and watch the world falling apart emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The New York Post says the Houthis Red Sea attacks are part of an Iranian Axis of Resistance and a plot to defeat the U.S. The intensifying attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea by Houthi rebels is a concerted and unsettling effort by Iran to defeat the United States and spread the Iranian Islamic Revolution, experts caution. Now, we are pretending we're not at war, but the Iranians and the Houthis are at war with us, according to Bill Roggio, senior fellow for the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. He told the New York Post on Wednesday. And on Tuesday, the Iran-backed militias launched a fresh attack on another vessel in the Red Sea, a critical shipping artery, targeting a container ship en route from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan with naval missiles. The group has launched at least 100 attacks against 14 different commercial and merchant vessels in the Red Sea over the past month, a senior U.S. military official said last week, as CNN reported. But sinking ships is not the higher goal of the attacks, according to Roggio. The attack of targeting itself is sufficient, the military experts said, and the Houthis and the Iranians are dictating the transit of maritime vessels on the high seas. This is incredible, and the world seems powerless to stop it. Well, the world is not powerless to stop it. The world just won't stop it. And, one of the things I think to keep in mind is that, it's very possible that the Iranians are taking a page out of the U.S. playbook, because one of the things we've seen the U.S. do in countries like Iran is to support a revolution or a rebellion against the existing regime, so to speak. And maybe they're just trying to drive prices up higher, drive oil prices up higher, drive, all the other economic elements that people depend on. We've already got, they have experienced huge inflation. Gas prices are still through the roof, even though they've come down some. They haven't come down near enough. And it's very possible that they're just looking at the U.S. and saying, hey, two can play that game. If you're trying to disrupt our nation internally, maybe we can just do that to you and drive the price of oil up by prohibiting the oil from reaching its destinations, and who knows what else is going through their mind. But it is curious that the United States is not in Bible prophecy, and I hope and I pray and like all of you, that it's the rapture that cleans out this country, and it basically is disabled by the disappearance of so many born again on fire believers in a moment and a twinkling of an eye. But we are following the pattern of the old Roman Empire, the Pax Romana. Rome at its zenith was doing all the things that our nation is now doing, and the free bread for the masses, violent sports, the breakdown of the family, disrespect for religion. All those things were going on in the Roman Empire at its peak, and it caused Rome to simply implode. Now, it is going to be restructured again during the tribulation, but again, we have no appointment with the tribulation. Not 1 second of the tribulation will we be present for as the church. We will be out of here and with the Lord, standing before the judgment seat of Christ as well, and being rewarded and having our works tested. And those that survive the testing fires of the Bema seat, those works, I should say, are going to be rewarded by the Lord. And, it's funny because some years ago, there was a company I worked for before I went into the ministry, that one of the managers, operations manager, went around and gave a bunch of us this wooden coin, and it had on the coin TUIT, had those letters TUIT, and of course we all asked, "What is this?" He said, and it, shaped like a coin. He said, "Well, if any of you have been waiting to get around to it, you just got around to it. So get around to it." And obviously meant to motivate us. And I share that for this reason. We have a lot of things vying for our time and energy and attention in life. And, I think we are running out of days and hours and minutes and seconds to do things for God's glory. Maybe things that we were waiting to get around to someday. Well, let's get around to them and do them for the Lord's name and for the expansion of his kingdom. Tell that person about the Lord that you've been saying, someday I'm going to bring it up. Reconnect with that family member that you're estranged from, or whatever it may be that's going on. Let's make sure that we are ready when he comes. And again, by that, I mean, we're ready by being born again. But I mean that our works are ready to stand the testings of his fire. So again, we see the Houthis acting up and watching the global impact on shipping, and companies going all the way around the Cape of Good Hope instead of cutting through, the name escapes me right now, the passage, Suez Canal. So, we're seeing things happen that, maybe we don't see. Well, this particular verse says this and that, but what we do know is that the world is headed for an economic disaster where a quart of wheat or 3 quarts of barley are going to cost a single day's pay for a common laborer early in the tribulation. So there's going to be an economic disaster and downturn after the rapture of the church. And who knows, all this could be feeding it. And the Iranians could be trying to stir up civil war in America, because we do know that there are Our country is polarized like never before since the Civil War. Worse than that, I think, in some cases. And, just looking at what's happening in our country and the upside down and backwards thinking, where you got people disrupting people's holiday travel plans, uh, protesting on behalf of the Palestinians, blocking roads into airports. Happened at JFK, happened at LAX, major airports where people are trying to get to their families, and people are blocking the road with their bodies to bring to light the plight of the Palestinian people who killed all these Jews on October 7th. And, that never makes it to the radar, but that's the world we live in. The Times of Israel reports that northern towns rocked by the heaviest Hezbollah barrages since the outbreak of the war. And this feeds into our first story. No injuries, but buildings and largely evacuated Kiryat Shmona suffered damage as at least 34 rockets were fired from Lebanon the day after an Israeli strike kills Hezbollah man and two others. And sirens sounded repeatedly in northern Israel on Wednesday as rockets fired from Lebanon pummeled the towns of Rosh Hanikra, I should say, and Kiryat Shmona in a major escalation of violence along the western border, as Israel's top general vowed that the country's military was prepared to battle the Hezbollah terror group, as we mentioned in our first article. And the uptick came after an alleged Israeli strike killed a Hezbollah member, as well as his brother and his brother's wife. And with Iran vowing revenge for the killing of a senior Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officer in Syria, which it has blamed on Israel. At least 18 rockets were fired at the coastal Rosh Hanikra around 10 a.m. on Wednesday in an attack. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing these names differently, but I do this. I should be wearing these, and sometimes the letters get a little bit blurry, even with a 20 font in the notes here. But anyway, Rosh Hanikra at around 10 a.m. on Wednesday, in an attack that Hezbollah claimed was aimed at an Israeli Navy base in the area. At least 6 of the rockets were said to have been intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system. And I think this is important for. We talk a lot about Syria, and Lebanon's on the northern border of Israel as well. And could it be that the whole northern border and Hezbollah, as well as the troops that are inside of Syria, have that hook put in the jaw, and they're drawn down from the north? Anybody's guess as far as that goes, but the north means the north, and that is exactly where the country is located that will invade Israel. 3 of the 5, I should say, are located and going to be drawn down from the northern direction. And, we are watching, I believe, the precursors to all that. Now, just a little insight. I believe, and people ask this question all the time, that's why I'll pause for a moment. I believe that it's very possible that the destruction of Damascus from Isaiah 17:1 will be the catalyst for the invasion of Israel from the north. And that these nations will say, you know what, enough is enough. And, right now, especially right now, the world would side with the invading forces. So could be that the order is reversed. Maybe that's one of the pieces of the Ezekiel situation, is that Damascus is destroyed, but pretty widely held that it's possible that it's Ezekiel 17 destruction of Damascus that could light the fuse, so to speak, for the invasion of Israel from the north by these countries. Now, the Times of Israel is saying evacuees ask Biden to back Israeli military up if Lebanon doesn't rein in Hezbollah. And again, we need to remember, as we mentioned frequently about Iran, the Iranian people and the Iranian regime are 2 completely different things. And of course, there's going to be extremists in Iran, but the Iranian people are wonderful and warm and kind and caring people, and want to raise their families and have jobs. And they don't want to see all the money that comes into their country sent out to support terror, and they want to support their own country. And our next door neighbors are Iranians, and there's Iranians all over our neighborhood, and we've long had a love for Persian food, and we have wonderful Iranian people at a restaurant we frequent here locally that are just warm and kind people. And we see a lot of that same type of mentality in Lebanon. Hezbollah, this puppet of the Iranians, doesn't represent the Lebanese people, as we see this group asking Biden, back Israel. If Hezbollah, starts advancing the things, back Israel, back Israel's defense of themselves and attacks on Hezbollah. And a group representing evacuees from northern communities on Wednesday penned a letter urging the Biden administration to support an Israeli military effort to push Hezbollah and other terror groups away from the Lebanese border, saying diplomatic means were ineffective in keeping the area safe. And Lobby 1701, which is named for the UN Security Council resolution that ended the 2006 Second Lebanon War, which represents the some 60,000 displaced residents of northern Israel, said that the horrific images on October 7th should serve as a warning of what could come to pass in the north if action isn't taken. And since October 7th, Hezbollah has put an end to our daily lives here in northern Israel because of their daily missiles and UAV attacks that target our homes and communities, and the threat of many more we were unwillingly forced to evacuate, read the letter. And again, the Israelis making the plea, and just kind of a side note about what I mentioned with Hezbollah and the Lebanese people. These people are out of their homes and they're living in temporary situations, whether it be with family members or some type of shelter. And again, life is just so radically disrupted for them. And the international community doesn't seem to have any concern for that, because in their minds, they're just Jews. It's just Israel. Really doesn't matter. The plight that we're concerned about is the Palestinian people, not God's chosen people. And again, this should remind us that, this is spiritual in nature, because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to treat the way the Jews are treated, a people group who has contributed so much to society and science and cultures around the world, and to say nothing. And one of the weirdest things is to see so much support or anti-Israel, anti-Semitism coming out of Hollywood, where so many of the comedians and actors are Jewish. And it's very bizarre to see our world spinning out of control and out of its mind the way that it is. And also, the Al Jazeera is reporting that Turkish President Erdogan calls Netanyahu worse than Hitler in an angry speech attacking Israel. I don't know. I think I might hit the pause button on saying things against Israel after what happened to that parliament member just a week ago who cursed Israel and then died. I don't know. I think I'd be careful. But, Erdogan's not known for being careful. He's known for being exactly that, angry. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday delivered one of the most viscerally hostile speeches against Israel during a long career of demonizing the Jewish state and insulting its leaders. Speaking at a science awards ceremony in Ankara, Erdogan accused Israel of operating Nazi concentration camps and compared his Israeli counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu, with Adolf Hitler. We've seen the Nazi camps of Israel. How does this happen? They used to talk about Hitler, but how are you any different than Hitler? Erdogan ranted, encountering a round of loud applause as he added, this is even worse than Hitler. What Netanyahu is doing is worse than what Hitler did. Yeah, read a book, Erdogan. 6 million Jews in the gas chambers and executed through other means. I don't think defending themselves is quite the equal. Erdogan went on to observe that Netanyahu is richer than Hitler. He takes support from the West. He receives all kinds of support from the U.S. And with all that support, 20,000 Gazas have been killed. Erdogan also addressed the impact of the war in Gaza internationally, leaping to the defense of U.S. university presidents under fire for allegedly ignoring or downplaying a wave of anti-Semitism since the October 7th Hamas pogrom in southern Israel and criticizing Germany for its support of Israel. Can you imagine that university presidents are being questioned and held accountable in the U.S. Congress just because they advocate for the rights of children, women, and civilians? He asked, referring to the controversial appearances of the presidents of Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, or MIT Institute of Technology before a congressional committee earlier this month. And turning his attention to Germany, Erdogan asserted that guilt over the Nazi Holocaust was effectively censoring German criticism of Israel's military response. This is the guy that silences anybody that is running against him in elections and, puts down coups and all those things violently. And it's just amazing, the hypocrisy. But there it is. Erdogan speaks and people clap. And, Israel or Turkey is one of the nations that will have a hook in their jaw. And what Erdogan, he needs to take a look at a truly inspired book and read the Bible, because he and those who are with them are going to lay dead on the mountains of Israel when God destroys these invading forces. And I don't think that's in too far the distant future. And by the way, I'll remind you, we won't be here for that. The Express UK reports Russia threatens to take U.S. military bases in NATO territory as a chilling warning is issued. A prominent Russian broadcaster said American occupation troops should be withdrawn from Europe during a furious rant live on state television. A top Kremlin propagandist called on the U.S. to hand over its European military bases to Russia in a terrifying warning this week, according to Vladimir Solyov, a Russian broadcaster, issued the demand during a recent rant, if you will. In a clip shared by X on X by Eastern European media outlets, Moscow, release said, Moscow should capture American bases in Germany, Italy, and Portugal. And they said on the evening news that I believe that all American occupation troops should be withdrawn from Europe, and Russian military bases should be located deep from the territory of the Russian Federation. For example, it is perfectly possible to occupy part of the military bases that have been prepared by the Americans in Western Europe. Ramstein could be our base. We could very well be stationed at a number of these bases in Italy. Then no questions arise. Then we will be sure that Europe will behave very decently, and no threat to our state will come from the territory of Europe. And this comes amid reports that Russian President Vladimir Putin is preparing for a future larger scale war with NATO. And again, with the United States in the weakened condition that it's in, we see the bloviating, so to speak, and the rhetoric ramping up. And this kind of statements, basically this was a not so veiled threat that they're going to go in and take those bases and drive the U.S. off, and it's going to be for their own protection. And when you've got, somebody can't even find his way off a stage, as we've seen so many times, they're pretty confident in their ability to do so with such poor leadership as we see in our country. Newsmax reports that Alan Dershowitz says Iran has declared war on the United States. And Iran is now engaged in a deliberate act of war on numerous occasions against the U.S. And most recently, it was responsible for critically injuring an American soldier. Since Hamas' attack on October 7th on Israel, estimates run as high as 100 Iranian-backed attacks across the Mideast on U.S. bases, ships, and service personnel. Iran has acted through its surrogates and proxies, including the Houthis, the Iraqi militia, Hezbollah, and others. And under the laws of war, an act of war can be committed by the principal nation itself, which in this case is Iran, or surrogates acting on its behalf with its approval or support. There can be no doubt, both as a matter of law and military reality, that recent attacks on American troops, including the one that seriously injured a soldier, are attributable to Iran. Indeed, the U.S. has so declared and has responded in what it believes is a proportional manner. There's that proportionality thing. Critics of the Biden administration believe this response has been insufficient. And proportionality in responding to military attacks by attacking the attacking nation's military does not require proportionality. Under international law, as long as the attacks are directed at military targets, the attacked nation may use overwhelming and disproportionate force in order to deter or punish the attacking armor, unless you're Israel, of course. International law also provides that the counterattack need not be directed specifically at those military targets that were involved in the initial attack. For example, the U.S. would be entitled to destroy Iran's potential nuclear arsenal in response to the attacks directed at American troops by Iran's proxies. This is the administration that has been trying to get back to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that Obama instituted, that Donald Trump removed us from. And this is why the Iranians have upped their game in their centrifuges. I'm trying to think of the word. Enriching uranium, I'm sorry. And, separating the U-238 from the U-235 and getting up to that weapons grade level. And, we know that they have enough. They can create a handful of nuclear weapons just by continuing to enrich uranium up to that 90% grade, which is weapons grade, having, again, 60% grade to the tune of enough material to create a handful of nuclear weapons. And what's the U.S. doing? They're trying to get them back to the table, get them back to, to negotiations. And, I know that's kind of been out of the news because it's not going to work. Besides the fact that Muslims are allowed to lie if it will advance Islam, and they do so, and they can even enter into false agreements or enter into agreements that they have no intention of keeping if, again, it would be used to protect or advance Islam. So, a weakened U.S. is not a good thing in these last days, especially when, we've played the power role for so many years and, have gone into help with, world wars and other wars and skirmishes around the world for the protection of people from evil. And, we have to remember, according to Romans 13, that's the job of the government, is to protect the innocent from the evil. And, everything's out the window. We're too busy fighting over whether gender and sex are the same, or whether if you think you're a man or think you're a woman and you're actually a man, that you're actually a woman. We're spending all of our time and efforts on important stuff like that here in the U.S. Well, our enemies are attacking, and as this article said, to the tune of over 100 attacks on U.S., not necessarily soil, but personnel and, military facilities around the world. And the Gateway Pundit says, and here's just, again, another story as to why our world and California seems to be leading the way in losing their minds. The Gateway Pundit says, California to penalize stores for refusing to provide gender-neutral toy sections for children. Some California retailers will be hit with a financial penalty in the coming days if they do not bend their knee to the far-left trans mafia. Under a bill signed back in 2021 by Governor Gavin Newsom, stores with more than 500 employees will be fined up to $500 for refusing to provide gender-neutral toy sections for children 12 years and under by January 1st, 2024. As Fox News noted on Wednesday, the legislative text defines a child care item as any product designed or intended by the manufacturer to facilitate sleep, relaxation, or the feeding of children, or to help children with sucking or teething. And Greg Burt, Vice President of the California Family Research Council, explained how the law blatantly violates the First Amendment to Fox News. You've got the government now dictating the signage in stores about what words can be used to advertise products. This is opening a Pandora's box. This is government-compelled speech. The government is deciding to tell a religious person, could be a Muslim-owned business, that they have to use certain words to advertise toys, and those words might violate the belief systems of that particular Muslim-owned business. The clown responsible for the authoritarian legislation, State Assemblyman Evan Lowe a Democrat from Silicon Valley, told CBS News in 2021 that he wants to stigmatize what's acceptable for certain genders and hopes more states follow the Golden State's lead. We need to stop stigmatizing what's acceptable for certain genders and just let kids be kids. My hope is this bill encourages more businesses across California and the U.S. to avoid reinforcing harmful and outdated stereotypes, like boys are boys and girls are girls. And this insane legislation is another example of how comedy has become a reality in America. And we are the laughing stock of the world. Putin has made no bones about it. We're a bunch of fools over here in his eyes, debating whether a man can be a woman and all these other things, allowing men to participate in women's sports, and why 1 millisecond is wasted by our national leaders on debating this issue is just beyond comprehension. Gateway Pundit also says the Welsh government uses 14-year-old schoolgirls to attract refugee men from Africa and the Middle East to Wales. The Welsh government used 14-year-old schoolgirls to attract refugee men from Africa and the Middle East to Wales. The Welsh Labour government used taxpayer dollars to use underage girls to attract military-age illegal migrant men from Africa and the Middle East to Wales. The promo video started with 2 minor teen girls greeting the refugees and let them know that they would be arriving at a welcoming environment. Fleeing your country is difficult, but Wales wants you to feel welcome, one of the girls said in an undated video. Excuse me. The other minor team chimed in. The Welsh Refugee Council wants to help you. You can contact them here, she said, as contact info appears on the screen. The Welsh Refugee Coalition is a collection of organizations working in Wales with asylum seekers and refugees at all stages of their journey and with the communities in which they live, the Welsh Refugee Coalition said. The teen girls promised the refugees all kinds of free programs, such as help applying for bank accounts, medical benefits, education, English lessons, and help finding doctors. There are many job opportunities here in Wales, one of the underage girls said. Then the article closes with, why is the Welsh government using minor teen girls to entice military-age men from countries with no rape laws to join them in Wales? And you have to ask that same question. What kind of thinking is going on in these people's heads? And it just reminds us, Paul said the Lord was going to send a strong delusion in the end. And we are seeing incompetent people in places of power with delusional thoughts as though, that this is a good thing in their mind. That's the thing. I just can't wrap my brain around this. They think this is the right thing to do. And, one of the things I think we need to remember, especially, with so many people siding with thinking like this, the Bible says if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. And, this whole socialist handout thing, it's never worked anywhere, and it breaks every country except for those in places of power where it's instituted. And that is moving fastly on a global scale into many countries. And we've seen the consequences of bringing in these migrants and overwhelming the system. And, people who are citizens and born and raised for generations in the country are now footing the bill for these people coming out of other countries. And it's burdening them to the degree that they can't even care for themselves anymore. And watching all this stuff go on globally, and to see something so idiotic happening through the Welsh government, it's just beyond the pale, so to speak. Now, the National Pulse reports that Britain bans prayer near abortion clinics. England's High Court has upheld a local government order establishing a so-called buffer zone against prayers being said near an abortion clinic. Livia Toshiki-Bolt, who heads the pro-life group 40 Days for Life and Christian Concern, had attempted to overturn the ban, arguing it criminalized prayer and reading from the Bible. And judges determined on Friday that the banning order lawfully followed the democratic and consultative procedures. They said any infringements of freedom of religion and speech and the right to protest were justified by the legitimate aim of protecting the rights of women attending the clinic. Did you catch that? They said any infringements. They didn't say this doesn't infringe. They said the infringements of freedom of religion and speech are justified. And this is where things are headed all over the world, including in these United States. Peaceful witness near abortion centers are helpful to many women in crisis pregnancies, offering genuine choice by providing support, argued the Christian Legal Center Chief Executive Andrea Williams. And British police are exceptionally rigid in enforcing buffer zones protecting abortionists. Lone Christians have in some cases been arrested or fined for praying silently inside their heads near a clinic. Christian Headlines reports that the Satanic Temple After School Satan Club teaches kids there is no hell. The Massachusetts-based Satanic Temple sparked backlash after announcing its first after-school Satan Club chapter in Tennessee, which will include teachings like there is no hell and Satan is not an evil guy. According to its website, this is all preparation for the Antichrist. According to its website, the Satanic Temple explained that the After School Satan Club does not believe in introducing religion into public schools and will only open a club if other religious groups are operating on campus. The ASSC exists to provide a safe and inclusive alternative to the religious clubs that use threats of eternal damnation to convert school children to their belief system. Unlike our counterparts who publicly measure their success in young children's profession of faith, the After School Satan Club program focuses on science, critical thinking, creative arts, and good works for the community, the group continued. While engaged in all these activities, we want the club goers to have a good time. Per the Christian Post, and 2 Timothy 3 comes to mind, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Per the Christian Post, the organization also posted a 2-minute promotional video titled My Pal Satan, featuring a goat as their mascot and a jungle presenting Satan as a seeker of truth. Satan's not an evil guy. He wants you to learn and question why. He wants you to have fun and be yourself. And by the way, there is no hell. It goes in part. Satan looks for truth, and let's help him, boys and girls. And in a statement shared with the WMC, the Satanic Temple contended that they have the legal right to have an after-school club since there is a Christian club at Chimney Rock Elementary School in Memphis. Hard to believe, but there you have it. This is what's going on in our country, and things like this are happening all over the world, and just incredible days in which we now live. And thankfully, the Bible has told us what to expect in the perilous times we mentioned a moment ago. The failing to put up with or endure sound doctrine is upon us. People being lovers of self and boasters, proud, arrogant, disobedient to parents, and all the other things that Paul named as characteristics of the perilous times are here. We've got wars and rumors of wars going on. Of course, the comments about pestilence or plagues is common in the news and continues. And, articles about, the COVID, the vaccine and the damage that it's caused on thousands and thousands of people. And it's unbelievable that we live in the world that we live in. And, much like birth pangs or labor pains on a pregnant woman, it just, things were moving gradually in this direction. And then all of a sudden they just arrived. And here we are in just a Looney Tunes world. And, that tells us the Lord's coming for us soon. And, when you get down to the place where, you've got deceived adults, deceived adolescents, and now you're going after elementary age kids, you can't get any younger than that. And I personally just believe that, there is a predetermined day and hour that the Lord has set for the rapture of the church. And we're seeing the things. There's just nowhere else to go. Things can't, the proverbial, they can't get any worse. and then they do. But, once now you've infiltrated the thinking of, and again, I recognize this is only one school, but it never stops there. Schools all over the country are teaching gender dysphoria and all this, for years, I think the statistics going back to the greatest generation, the boomers, homosexuality, the percentage was 1%, and now it's 20%. Now, how does that happen? I mean, it's indoctrination. It's all what's happening in our school systems. And I know the Lord is patient. He's long suffering, but he will not always strive with man, and he is going to react. And I believe that that could very well be soon. But he has to take us out of the way before he pours out his wrath on this Christ-rejecting world. Well, that's it for this week. And again, if you'd like to join us at Proximity, it's coming up on January 27th. Go to calvarycoc.org and hit the What's Happening button, and you can register for that. If you'd like to grab one of the couple or few spots left for our Israel trip, you can find that same information there. And if you'd be so kind, if you haven't pre-ordered my new book coming out, The Time of the Signs, that'd be great too. Go to Amazon.com or any online bookseller, and you can grab a copy there. And so appreciate all who have so many wonderful and kind things to say, and those who have bought the book, appreciate that too. And looking forward to what God has for us should he tarry in this coming year. And, it's like that old saying, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I believe there is a new day that is about to dawn. And it's a day where we get up one day, and the twinkling of an eye day will be that day, and we'll be in the presence of the Lord and be with him forever. So keep your hopes up, your eyes lifted above the circumstance and the moment. Jesus is coming for us, and I believe it's soon, and we will forever be with him. And well, that's it for not just this program, but that's it for this year. So we'll see you in 2024 here on the lineup. And looking forward. If you'd like to watch online, we'll be revealing our word for the year at our Sunday night service, our New Year's Eve service. Again, you can watch it on our website or Facebook if you so choose. Service starts at 7 Pacific time, and it's got a pretty exciting series of verses that we'll be looking at each month, as we do every year, in examining this word. So jump on if you'd like and join us Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll have a time of worship, teaching. We'll have our year-end video and all the other things we normally do at the service. And then I'm going to give a, kind of an update on what's happening in the world, and then reveal our word for 2024. So again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate all your support out there. And hey, by the way, especially if you're watching on Facebook, please share this. It's just so frustrating how they, have shadow banned so many of us. Amir, same thing. 2 million followers Amir has, and just a handful of people will see in comparison and see the posts. And yet this is supposed to be, a free country where you can express your thoughts and feelings on all matters without fear of reprisal, and yet that's not the case. So appreciate you sharing it if you wouldn't mind. And that's it for this week. That's it for this year. So we'll see you here, there, or in the air. God bless you.